Nate Anderson. Nate Anderson just returned home from an evening run, and that's when he found the garage door was forced open, and he also found his sister's body in her bedroom. He also told the police that he did not go inside the room after seeing her body from the doorway. Nate Anderson told the police over the phone before they arrived that his sister had been shot several times in the head, but the investigators agreed on the fact that it would have been impossible for anyone to know this information by looking at the body from the doorway. The 15-year-old Nate Anderson was convicted of murdering his sister with a .22 caliber semi-automatic gun, which was given to him by his father. The investigators concluded the motive of the murder to be hatred, as there were no signs of any other trauma. Despite the clear evidence, the Anderson stood by the team defending him. Nate's grandmother even said that he doesn't know anything but the church, school, and love. Today, he's being held at the Smith County Juvenile Detention Center,
including both the guilty and penalty proceedings, as well as the memoranda submitted by both the state and the defense.
Heather Opel. Jerry Duane Hyman at the time was a target. He was targeted by Barbara Opel, 37 at the time, who was hired as a live-in caregiver for his mother at their home at the 3700 block of 22nd Street in Everett. Barbara wanted to kill Hyman for his wealth. Hyman had terminal cancer and a lot of money.
Defendant has 30 days from the issuance of a mandate from the Supreme Court of Florida affirming the sentence of death.
Barbara gathered a group of kids and teens, including her own daughter, for this crime. These young criminals ambushed Hyman at his home on April 13, 2001. This was a crime that plotted for days. The kids then attacked the old man with baseball bats and then stabbed him, while Barbara became their cheerleader as she encouraged them from the basement. It wasn't only her daughter but two other siblings who were 7 and 11 when they were asked to clean up after the murder. The murder group took Hyman's remains to the Tulalip Reservation. The 89-year-old mother of Hyman, who was later found neglected and dehydrated with blood splattered on her wheelchair. The mother stole $40,000 from the house and paid up to $220 to the kids, and the eldest one, who was 17 at the time, was given a car. Heather Opel pleaded guilty to the first-degree murder when she was 14 years old. She received life in prison with a non-parole period of 22 years. She'll be eligible for parole next year when she's age 36 with her boyfriend Jeffrey Grote, the one who got the car. Is getting to drive it after spending 50 years in prison. He was 17 at the time.
Pinned us down, and Mary had grabbed us by the neck and started strangling.
Mary Bell. Kids are the future of our nation, but some signify the darkness. Such is the case of a little girl named Mary Bell. These innocent faces and cute gestures can sometimes be deceiving. Mary Bell was merely 10 years old when she started her sadistic life. She killed 2 young boys back in 1968 in Scotswood, an inner suburb in Newcastle upon Tyne. She's the youngest killer in Britain, and that's the title she's going to be holding on to for a while. Mary was born to Betty Bell, a well-known prostitute who had often had to go out of the home to Glasgow for work and left the kids to their father. Mary was her second child, and she had her when she was 17 years old. As for most of these cases go, Mary never knew her father. It was believed that one Mr. William Billy Bell, it was 100% and it's unknown, born to a sex worker, her life wasn't normal. She was an unwanted and neglected child. She was born on the 26th of May 1957, and her mother wasn't happy about it. She even said, and I quote, "Take that thing away from me." It was a day before her 11th birthday when she strangled a 4-year-old Martin Brown in a bedroom upstairs. She went on to murder another child called Brian Howe. After the investigations and interrogation of some 1,200 children, Mary gave details about the murder that the police hadn't disclosed. This led to solving the case, and then Mary's friend Norma also testified against her. This led to Mary spending her teenage years in prison. She was 11 when she was convicted and was released when she reached 23. She was granted anonymity under the Mary Bell Order. This means that she can change her identity and start a new life.
Vital indicated that he came up behind her and squeezed her tight. When he did that, Tiffany yelled out and put her hands to her side of her body, the same side that's consistent with where her liver is.
Lionel Tate. The youngest American citizen ever who was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Kathleen Gracie Tate was babysitting Eunuch and her son upstairs. They were together downstairs doing what kids do, making noises. Kathleen called them to be quiet, but one of them went completely quiet. Lionel ran upstairs about 45 minutes later to tell his mom that Eunuch wasn't breathing. The reason was that they were wrestling and that he had her in a headlock when the child's head hit the table. Tate was 13 at the time and Eunuch was just 6. They rushed to the medics and, well, it was too late. When Eunuch's body was examined, the reports were horrifying.
It wasn't that he was a hardened juvenile criminal or anything like this. He didn't have any other juvenile charges. People really struggled in this case to understand what went wrong. How could this have happened?
Lionel was convicted of killing Unique by stomping on her belly, which caused her liver to lacerate. Every inch of her body had serious bruises, almost like she'd been hit by a speeding car. The report also showed that she had suffered a fractured skull, a fractured rib, and her brain was swollen. It didn't seem like a playful act of a child. It does not seem like a playful, friendly wrestling match either. It seems like a brutal death game. The prosecutors also said that the injuries that were sustained were similar to that of a person falling from a 3-story building.
Robert's had his cut since the start of the year, and we've been buying it. Well, he's been buying it.
And was it shipped to the house?
Yeah.
Do your parents know? I mean, did they know it?
They knew he had bulletproof vests. They always thought that was a little wild, but they never said.
Beaver brothers. Wanting to be famous, these brothers killed 5 members of their family in 2015. Daniel Beaver, a 12-year-old, calling 911 reporting a murder, and the killer being his own brother. The call was brief, but there was a commotion heard in the background, but the line went dead. Dispatchers tracked the number and found David Beaver as the owner of the house, but the calls which were made to him were in vain. The responding officers reached the house and they found blood on the porch. The officers found Crystal Beaver, a 13-year-old girl, bleeding from multiple stab wounds, barely clinging to life. The officers discovered Daniel Beaver and all the other victims who were already dead. Crystal Beaver survived the ordeal and was the prime witness leading to the conviction of her brothers. They managed to kill their father, mother, 2 of their brothers, and their sister. Robert and Michael Beaver both faced life imprisonment. While Robert faced it with no possibility of parole, Michael was sentenced with the possibility of parole. The surrounding neighbors said the kids were homeschooled. The Beavers were not exactly friendly. As the investigation carried on, Robert claimed that both of his parents were hateful and abusive towards the children. This was further confirmed by Crystal, who was one of the surviving members of the family side. Robert stated that they admire serial killers and they were on their way to strike in locations outside of Oklahoma, and they want to achieve a body count up to 500 people or more. Jessica Carline. This one takes us to Casper, where a 17-year-old is going to spend her time behind bars after pleading guilty for crashing a vehicle into a building, which led to the killing of 2 of the passengers. She's currently 12 to 16 years old at the Wyoming Women's Center in Lusk. She's pled guilty to 2 charges of aggravated vehicular homicide, 27-year-old Brandon Avery and 27-year-old Amanda Strickland. They were inside the vehicle with Brandon sitting in the front seat and Strickland in the back before the crash, and they both died as a result of the injuries that were sustained in the crash, while Jessica was treated for her injuries. However, Jessica is reported to be in a stable condition. She was 17 at the time of the incident, but the prosecutors charged her as an adult. Jessica's defense argued that she was taken advantage of by the victims before the crash, while the parent of one of the victims said that the plea deal does not do any justice. But it's very hard to investigate the possible contributing factors that lead to the crash.